Hello Mom and Dad Meet World. So this is finally our review of the Sony ZV-E1. It is this camera right here. We are going to be shooting this review on this particular camera, not this particular camera, but this particular camera right here, the Sony a7 IV. We're going to be shooting at 4K 24 frames per second, so we are using 4K 24 uncropped, unlike this one right here, which I mainly shoot in 4K 60, also in uncropped mode, which the a7 IV cannot do. But let's talk about one of the first things that I had done when I had got this thing. First thing, what we did is we had put on a brand new screen protector right here on the screen. And then we had also updated the actual firmware of the camera. What we did is we went from, I think it was version 1.0 to version 1.01 for the camera body. And then we'd also upgraded this to be capable of shooting 4K 120. I do not have any 4K 120 footage because I do not have a UHS Type 2 memory card to be able to shoot that footage with. So I cannot tell you how good or not good the 4K 120 looks, but judging by how the 4K 60 looks, it's going to look absolutely phenomenal. So the next thing I did was I saved my picture settings. I've got memory recall 1, memory recall 2 that I had saved on here. Essentially they are both the same 4K 60 10-bit 422 footage, no picture profile, just standard color. And the difference between my number 1 and my number 2 is I've got no active stabilization, no steady shot whatsoever in picture mode 1, and then I've got that to about volume at around 7. And then on number 2 I've got active steady shot on, or excuse me, I've got dynamic active on, and then I've got the volume set to about 12 to 13. Because I was not using another microphone. I was using the onboard microphone on this one right here. So to give you an update, since we got this camera about 2 weeks ago, it has been very smoky up here, so there has not been a lot of chance to go outside with it. It has been mainly around here, except for the past couple days where I really took the camera out for more of a test drive in real world use on what I would actually use it for. So this is just my review from that. There has not been any hot days where we've gone out there to use it. I know you've been wanting to know about the overheating, so let me get straight down to the overheating part. I have not gotten the camera to overheat. I had actually put the camera on high for the power off for the overheat setting. So I did get a chance to actually use an FX3 very shortly, and the FX3 actually overheated within minutes this past summer when I was using it, because I did not actually have it set to high. It was just set to normal, but even after a few minutes in the sun, it actually overheated and shut off. With this particular camera, I've shot over 100 or so clips with it. Some have been a few minutes long. I have felt the body get warm, but I've actually not had any overheat warnings with this camera whatsoever. Nothing has been long form like what I'm doing right here, sitting down with you. So this is just my personal experience and my use with this particular camera. Now, speaking of the FX3, and let's talk about the a7S III. This has about the same sensor as those cameras. I think there's going to be two major differences between the ZV-E1 and the Sony FX3 and the a7S III. Aside from the looks of the body and how different they are, with this one not having a viewfinder whatsoever, same as the FX3, the a7S III does have the optical viewfinder, but the FX3 and the ZV-E1 only have the flip out screen. But the two major differences are the singular memory card found on this one right here, and then the dual memory cards found in the FX3 and the a7S III. Along with that too, this particular camera does have smart AI autofocus that those two older cameras actually do not have. So this takes the a7R5 smart AI autofocus and puts it in this camera body right here, which has been very, very neat. Autofocus has been spot on. So the other big difference is going to be price also. This thing right here with the body only comes in at about $2,200, where the other cameras are $1,000+ more. But the difference is you do get that peace of mind, that added redundancy in the secondary memory cards. Overall, you're going to need to decide whether or not that extra $1,000 or so is going to be worth it for you to give up the smart AI autofocus, but then to have that peace of mind in the redundant memory cards. Really, it's going to be based upon your use case. So one of the things I did do was I tested this camera out in a few different scenarios, one of which was on a gimbal, and the others were handheld using the active steady shot and then using active dynamic steady shot, which this camera is known for, where the other cameras do not have active dynamic steady shot. And I would say they all look very, very good, but I will say that that active dynamic steady shot can get a little bit jittery depending on your situation, and sometimes that jitter just does not translate well. Hello Mom and Dad Meat World. So we are shooting right now with the Sony ZV-E1. I've got this actually hooked up to the DJI microphone, which I've got on me right here, and this is what you're seeing straight out of camera. We are at about 28mm using the factory kit lens, the 28 to 60mm kit lens, and this is very much so getting dark. This is dusk. With what you see behind me are lights, and we are shooting at approximately 12,800 ISO, 28mm f4, and this is the image quality to expect. 4K 60 10-bit, no picture profile, and straight out of camera, no additional edits, no LUTs, no color grading applied. This is straight out 4K 60 10-bit 422 footage. Here I am turned around, not sure if it's actually going to pick me up. It might, but this is actually a little bit of a test of the artificial intelligence and whether or not it can actually track my head or my body. And again, this is super low light, very, very much so dusk, and we've got background lights on, which are just bulb lights, party lights, whatever lights you want to call them, but those are the lights that are on behind me, and I see it tracking my eye. So hopefully this comes in focus, and hopefully the sound also comes out very well. So a couple things I forgot to mention was this is the factory lens that had come with the camera. This is the 28 to 60mm lens right here with the aperture of 4 to 5.6. This is what we had done. So during that low light test, I had it set to 28mm and f4 as the aperture, but then for the other test, the one that required the gimbal, this was actually too small of a lens to fit on this gimbal. The only other gimbal I had was a bigger Crane 2 gimbal, so it needed a little bit more of a beefy lens. So this is where I put the Zeiss, the Sony Zeiss FE24-270 with a constant f4 aperture, and this is a lens that was on here and that you will see not only for the gimbal shots, but that's what you will see also for the handheld shots. And this is an optically stabilized lens. This is what I use for, as I said, the active and also the active dynamic for the video that you will see. So I did have a couple of really odd things happen. One, when I did record a piece of video, when I switched over from active to active dynamic, that next video ended up to play very, very fast. It looked like it was recorded with an error on the video because it just looked like it was playing in fast forward. Around the same time, my tally light remained on the camera. So I've got the recording tally light here. And then if you've ever taken any burst photos, as you're waiting for that buffer to clear, you're gonna see it still writing to the memory card. Well, I had the writing to a memory card and the tally light on at the same time, and I was actually pressing the on and off button, flipping it up and down, turning it on and off, and it actually was not turning off. The thing I had to do was I had to remove the battery from underneath to actually physically get the camera to turn off. So once I did get the camera back on again, which it turned right back on without any issue, then I was recording normally in active dynamic and did not have any issue. So when I did also take a look at the video footage that I did get, I took about 100 video clips, and about a handful of them ended up being vertical, which they weren't actually recorded vertical, so I actually had to go in, rotate them right, and then re-export them so they looked correct in the horizontal orientation. But I don't think that's going to be a long-term or worrisome thing. It's just one of those things that was just a little bit annoying when it does happen. Typically does happen when I take iPhone video, but it's something to be expected, I guess. Hey, what do you mean by that? So overall, I actually got done using this at the fair for quite a few hours and about 100 clips, and I did bring a secondary battery with me, but I didn't need it because there was still about 50% battery life left with this camera, which I find to be very, very impressive. I was shooting 4K 60 the whole time and handheld using dynamic active steady shot mainly yesterday. So battery life is phenomenal. So to wrap things all up and to conclude, if you are looking for a very, very good 4K 60 non-cropped camera, the ZV-E1 is a phenomenal little camera, very discreet. I really like the body on here. What I forgot to mention was I also did add the Arca Swiss base along with this grip right here to make it easy to carry and to give it just this nice little grip. But overall, this has been a very, very nice camera. After I got past the issue of the weird recording tally light being on, and I actually took out the battery and basically gave the camera a little reset, I haven't had any issues with it since. I actually do like the grip here. The grip is really, really nice. The actual camera body itself feels great. It is nice and light and compact, great battery life. The only part I do worry about is this singular memory card right here. And I think that's one of the reasons why I still will be using the Sony a7 IV as my primary shooter, because it does have dual redundant memory cards. But the video footage here looks crispy, clean, looks phenomenal. The low light is great because only using an f4 lens, it was still able to track my face in pretty much very, very dark scenario, and I think it did a great job doing so. But overall, this has been my review. Thank you very much for watching. Likes and subscribes are always appreciated. And until the next video, hopefully this camera or another camera finds you well. Until next time, thanks again.